All right, I'm going to call us to order. Let the record reflect that all members are present of the executive committee today. We're going to start off with general manager and department manager comments. We'll go to Patrick.
I only had one comment, and that was just a follow-up from our April meeting. And I don't know, Christy, you may know this, and that's the letter from the city regarding the equalization of green waste fees. We still haven't received a reply back from the city. I don't know if you know when that's expected to arrive.
I do not. That was not part of the discussion we had yesterday.
Okay.
Sorry.
Well, Chris, if I could ask, maybe you could follow up with Mayor Craig about that one.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll reach out to her this evening.
So out of deference for your time restrictions, Chris, I have no additional comments.
Thank you, Patrick. Any department managers with comments today? Not seeing any hands up, so we're going to go ahead and move on in our agenda to committee member comments. Any members from committee members? Any comments from committee members? All right. Hearing none, seeing no hands, we'll move into public comments. This is an opportunity for the public to share comments regarding items not on today's agenda. We will ask you to use the raise hand function, *9 via landline, to raise your hand and let us know you wish to be recognized. Seeing none, we'll close the public comment period and bring it back for our consideration items, beginning with our minutes of April 1st. Any comments or concerns with the minutes from the April 1st meeting from committee members?
Motion to approve.
Got a motion?
I'll second.
Drew? Okay.
Yes.
Got a motion and a second. Any public comment on our minutes? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote.
Alternate Vice President Tipton,
Yes.
Vice President Cromines,
Yes.
and President Lopez.
Yes, the motion carries. Thank you. We'll head into our March 2021 claims and financial reports from Ray. Ray, floor is yours.
It would help if I was unmuted. At the end of March, revenues were about $800,000 ahead of where we were this time last year. $300,000 ahead in solid waste tipping fees, and $600,000 ahead in diverted materials. Diverted materials is mostly soil. We received double what we expected and what we received in the past. So hopefully the rate increases that kicked in July 1 will start to curb that. For expenditures, everything is comparable to last year. Last year we were at 72.1% spent at the end of March, and this year we're at 72.3%. So everything's in line, unless there's any specific questions.
Thank you, Ray. Any questions from members of the committee? Seeing none, I'll see if there's any public comment on this item. Okay, bring it back to the committee. And I believe the request on this is action to forward to the board and recommend approval.
Tipton, so moved.
Second.
Got a motion from Tipton, a second from Cromines. Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Sure. Alternate Vice President Tipton,
Aye.
Vice President Cromines,
Yes.
and President Lopez.
Yes, the motion carries. Thank you. Now we're going to start item 3, a resolution establishing the investment policy. And that's back to you, Ray.
Okay, this is a recurring item. It's recommended that the investment policy is approved annually. Every year we compare it to the local agency investment guidelines that come out usually around March and are issued by this California State Treasurer's Office, kind of combining all of the different rules. So we are in compliance with the State Treasurer's Office. There are no changes year over year in the investment policy. While the policy does allow investment in several vehicles, by practice, the authority invest its money mainly in Lease, which at the end of March was yielding a little bit more than 0.35%. So minimal. They invest mostly in treasuries and CDs. So they're usually about 6 months behind of the curve. So stuff as the treasuries start to pick up in the next few months. Now, hopefully, now that the economy is starting to open up, we'll start seeing some higher yields. That's it for me.
Thanks, Ray. Any questions from committee members?
The only question I have is there anything that actually is giving us an option to give us more than that?
Yes, in practice, in the past, we've invested in CDs. At this point, we're at the bottom of the yield curve and at the bottom of the trend. So we could either invest in stuff a little more long-term and be ahead of the curve. So it kind of ties us into lower yields as the investment returns start coming up. There are some investment groups that I'm starting to look into now, but from what I've seen, their yields aren't a whole lot higher than this at this point.
Okay.
All right, we'll take it out to the public, see if we have any questions on this item. Seeing no hands going up, we'll close public comment and bring it back for action. The recommendation is to provide input and forward to the board, or I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong item, is to forward to the board and recommend approval.
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Tipton, second from Cromines. Roll call vote, please.
Alternate Vice President Tipton,
Yes.
Vice President Cromines,
Yes.
and President Lopez.
Yes. All right, motion carries. So now we're on item 4, resolution approving amendment number 3 to the lease with Nexus Partners and the Friedrich Family Limited Trust Partnership, authorizing a 2 to 3 year extension to the lease at 128 Sunstreet. Kick that over to Patrick.
Right, thank you, Mr. President. We went out and spoke with both our real estate agent and the landlord again, as requested by the board at the April meeting, to just get a little more background information and understand the landlord's position. So simply put, the landlord is willing to give us a little more time until June, but he is not at all comfortable waiting until August for us to make a decision. And so because of that, we've come back with some information, both on the market circumstances around office leasing, as well as our recommendation to the board to consider looking for a long-term permanent home for the authority, which we have not had since formation. So considering that, I mean, the landlord's concern obviously is that, if we can't make up our mind 6 months in advance of the lease expiring, they want to be able to begin marketing it. And that's, something they want to have time to do. So they've indicated, if we can make the decision by June, they're fine. We prefer to make it sooner than later, but June at the latest, and not to wait till August. So I think there was several different dates thrown around, wait a month, 2 months, was recommended also, or suggested maybe considering waiting till August. I just want to clear up one thing. The office relocation is not related to the transfer station relocation. They're two separate projects. We have below market rate lease rates right now. The markets are very hot in Salinas. The inventory of office space is fairly limited. In fact, our agent looked at it and said right now, in their opinion, buying land, building a new office from the ground up with prevailing wage requirements and things like that probably is not the most cost-effective thing for us, and that we'd be better off trying to buy an existing pre-established office space that we can either modify to meet our needs, or that already meets our needs. That'll be the most cost-effective, best return on our investment. But those spaces, again, are sort of few and far apart in terms of ownership. The takeaway really is that right now, what we have with our current lease is really about as good as we're going to get for the short term, while we work through these other longer term issues with relocation of the transfer station. Should that occur and we come to all the necessary agreements, then there's possibilities we could begin looking for some permanent office space closer to that facility. But again, it's not critical that the offices be immediately adjacent to the transfer station. While that's nice and it's beneficial for us, it's not critical for the administrative function to have those two things conjoined. So we're looking at different options. We did speak with city staff, or I spoke with city staff and the city manager a couple of days ago. We talked through this a little bit. The option of building offices on the Madison Lane property, while that's under discussion, it's not our preference for a couple of reasons. One is the space being offered is fairly limited. And you know, in our business, there are new regulations coming every day, and having some space and ability to expand our operations to meet public demand and regulatory requirements is really critical. And to be boxed into a very small space and then to take up most of that with an office and to eliminate additional operational space, I don't think is in the agency's best interest. So I think looking outside of the Madison Lane facility, either in the vicinity or anywhere really within the business areas of the city, really makes the most sense for us in the long term. But we haven't thrown that out the window as an option. I mean, there is always a fallback if we have to do it, but we definitely aren't focusing on building an office there. And in fact, I think Council Santos will probably tell you we can't really invest public money in a private facility. There are some legal obstacles for doing that, unless there's, for instance, some kind of buyback provision at the end of the lease where the owner pays us, some fair market value for the office space if we don't stay there, or they do a build to suit and then lease it back to us. All those things will take time. So even considering that as an option, we're looking farther out, at least a couple of years. So in our discussions with the city staff, we agreed that we would try to focus on the 2-year lease as sort of the interim position. In the event we don't make the kind of progress we think is necessary to be able to do an office relocation in 2 years, we can try to go back to the landlord, say 6 months from now, a year from now, and see if they're willing to extend that lease an additional year to give us more time. But I think for now, sticking with a 2-year lease would probably be more than adequate. Give us some time to work through our discussions with Republic Services in the city, and also just take advantage of what is really a good, excellent rate for office leasing right now. And I think that's in our agency's best interest, just to stay where we're at and only have to move one more time. That really is the underlying goal. We don't want to move in a year and a half, and then into a temporary building and then have to move again later. I think we want to make sure we're doing this right the first time, and we make one move and one move only. So at this point, I think we'd recommend going with a 2-year lease, evaluate the progress on the other side, and if necessary, we can always go back and ask for an additional year later. But I think 2 years would be a good start for today. So that's our recommendation.
Thank you, Patrick. Thoughts from committee members? I see a hand up from Rob.
Oh, I realized my video wasn't on. Sorry. Yeah, I just wanted to add my 2 cents. I'm a real estate broker and been watching both the prices on properties, but also vacancies and lease rates. And it's crazy what's going on. It's a great time to be selling, a horrible time to be buying or leasing. And so it would be my preference that the executive committee pass a strong vote to urge the full board to approve a 2-year lease for those reasons, in addition to what Patrick had mentioned on the splitting of the 2 issues and stuff. So that just wanted to add my 2 cents.
Thank you, Rob. I see a hand up from Christy.
I as well would like to support the 2-year. I think that it will take us 2 years, even if we do get moved to Madison. And Patrick's absolutely correct. Those are two completely separate issues. We need to go, and sorry for the noise, but we need to go ahead and approve this for a 2-year lease and get us a safe place to stay so that we don't have to move multiple times.
Thank you, Christy.
So I would
Drew?
make that motion to move that forward to the board.
Perfect. Thank you. Drew, you're on mute.
Oh, I know. I was waiting for Christy to finish up. I'm going to reiterate the same thing I did last time. Is the owner has already stated that he won't guarantee us that extension if we go back after 2 years and say we want another year. We're concerned already that 2 years may not be long enough. So I'm actually going to continue to urge for the 3-year lease, simply because it is there. It is a lower rate. As Rob mentioned, we're already seeing skyrocketing purchase rates. It actually might make more sense now to go ahead and push for the 3-year lease, knowing that we've got that 3 years, we've got that extra buffer. It's not that much more a year. We're talking a handful of dollars a year to go with a 3-year lease. And that way we know we've got that settled down and we don't have to worry about that for a little bit longer.
Patrick, can I ask, what's the penalty for breaking the lease? I know it's been asked a couple times.
Yeah, this was asked last time we extended the lease. Basically, the penalty is we would have to pay their losses to the point where they can remarket or release the property. So depending on when we terminate the lease, and then how long it takes them to find a new leaseholder. So the likelihood is and it's just based on the history of that specific property. The upstairs offices really were vacant for almost the entire 13 years I've been here, with the exception of a brief 6-month period where the local church leased some space up there for what turned out to be schooling as opposed to administration, and the landlord took them out of that lease very quickly. But outside of that, it's been hard until just recently. Now they have a good tenant in there we think is going to stay for a while. But that would basically be the penalty. We would have to fund their losses until they're able to replace us.
Yeah, they have a duty to
break the
mitigate.
lease.
Sorry. Yeah, they have a duty to mitigate damages, but if for some reason they can't fill, then we would be on the hook for the entire term of the agreement.
So we essentially can't break the lease unless they fill it with someone else. Then we're allowed to let them sublease it to someone else on our behalf. Is the way I would define that. But, okay.
And
well,
I've
given
been
those,
on the landlord side of that.
Mhm.
So, when you're going to get paid anyway, you're in no hurry really to fill that place. So I really would advise against that.
unless rents go up, I've been there too. And then when rents have gone up 30-40%, you think, all right, well, it's worth the little effort to get out there and try to get the extra dollar.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
the market.
well, go ahead, Patrick.
I was going to say the markets are hot now. I mean, the rate they're offering us is really very, very low compared to the market rates right now for leasable space.
Any other comments? Given the conversation, I'll second Christie's motion for the 2 years. Also respecting Drew's push for 3. I think it's at least 2, and I think we route that up to the full board to make the decision. But at this point, I think sending with a strong recommendation for 2 with the consideration of 3 for discussion is important. And I think we can make that call as a body. And I know 1's out of the window. I think we've changed pace from where we were headed. And I think that's really important for direction.
And I think that's exactly what we said last time as well. We recommended the 2 or the 3.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and route it back. I think we've got a motion and a second. And with that, we'll I'll see if there's any public comment. Seeing no hands going up, we'll go ahead and send it out for a roll call vote.
Alternate Vice President Tipton,
Yes.
Vice President Cromings,
Yes.
and President Lopez.
Yes. All right, motion carries. Now we're on item 5, an update on the Sunstreet Transfer Station relocation project. Kick that over to Patrick.
This will be very quick. I think I've already sort of spoken a little bit to it. So we did meet with city staff, or I met with them on Wednesday, or I'm sorry, Tuesday. We talked a little bit about the lease. They were, wanting to get more information on that. I think the takeaway from that meeting was they are still working with Republic. There appears to be sort of two things going on. One, completion of the franchise negotiations, which we understand is the target is the beginning of October to have that work completed. And then, of course, the additional work with us and Republic to facilitate the relocation. And that, I believe, is what they're looking at us trying to get completed within 90 days. So having said all that, our continual concern here is we as an agency can't do much right now. We're waiting for Republic to reply and respond to some of the issues that have been on the table in our past negotiations. So the city staff and administration has committed wholeheartedly to really pushing Republic to get that moving forward and to get a resolution to some of the sticking points that are still there, and is tentatively trying to schedule a meeting for all parties in about 3 weeks, plus or minus, so we can all sit down and sort of talk through that. So once we get some of those questions answered, then I think we can, start to make a little more progress. But up to this point, we've sort of been just sitting in a holding pattern. And I just want to remind everybody again on this. The biggest issue here to meet the one core objective that the city has been very clear on is when you're going to relocate. And my answer is when Republic is able to secure all the appropriate entitlements to take on our traffic, our tonnage, and our activities on that property. Whether it includes an office or doesn't include an office, that's another discussion, but it's partially related if we talk about office space. All those entitlements have to be in place before we can provide the city or the board with a certainty on a date for relocation. So that remains our common concern, not concern, but sort of our objective is we need to know when those entitlements will be in place to take on our 400 plus tons a day of refuse and 100,000 plus trips a year into that facility. Those entitlements have to be there. And then the relocation it becomes just a simple internal operational process of moving equipment and staff over and upstaffing potentially. There, part of the discussions are around who's going to do transfer operations and things like that. So there's a number of things that we have to come to final agreement on so that the authority can do all the advanced planning we have to do. For instance, just an example, if we have to buy new transfer trucks, Caesar informed me this week as we're going through some preparation to replace some of our transfer trucks, the lead time is huge, 8, 10, 12 months for transfer trailers and or trucks. And that's just because of COVID and the backlog and materials backlogs and cost of materials. Everything has gone up pretty significantly on the capital side, and the time because of the back orders is pretty significant. So we need as much planning time as possible to prepare for that relocation if it requires upstaffing and adding additional equipment. So that's my
Thank you, Patrick. Any input from members of the committee? All right, I'll take it out, see if we have any public input at this time. Seeing no hands up, we'll close public comment, bring it back. So the action on this is to forward to the board for direction, but do we need a formal vote on that, Roy?
Sorry, I couldn't get my mute button undone. I'm usually a little more technically proficient. Yeah, to give direction, yeah, just a formal vote, please.
Okay, so
I'll
we
make
need a
that
formal
motion.
vote to, thank you. I've got a motion to forward this to the board for
And I'll
direction.
second.
Thank you. I've got a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Alternate Vice President Tipton,
Yes.
Vice President Cromings,
Yes.
and President Lopez.
Yes. All right, and I just want to clarify, we won't be going into closed session this evening. Is that correct?
Right. Correct.
Okay, so I want to share with everyone, I apologize, I do have to jump off at 4:30. An unexpected issue came up, so I've got to jump off, but the last items that remain are informational only, so I apologize for that. But I will ask our Vice President, Christy Cromings, to take handle as the 4:30 hour hits and I have to jump off. But with that, we'll jump into item 6, the landfill gas biogas utilization proposal from Amoresco.
All right. Before I introduce the two gentlemen to do the presentation, just a quick background for the executive committee. So Amoresco is our landfill gas power purveyor. The arrangement that we established with Amoresco back in 2014, 2015 was that the authority would be what we refer to as GASCO. We are the provider of the fuel for an energy project. We deliver landfill gas. We own and have paid for the equipment to clean that gas up, remove contaminants prior to using it as a fuel to run a generator, what we call a medium BTU generator that's designed for landfill gas to create electricity. So Amoresco is Genco, or the generator company. And so they take possession of the gas after the cleanup and they pay us for that. So we receive a royalty based on BTU value of that gas delivered to Amoresco. And in turn, they produce electricity and sell it out to buyers on the grid. What's changed since the first project was developed or came online in 2016 is the price of natural gas has come down. Many of the incentives that supported or provided subsidies or grants for projects like this have expired. And because of the low value of natural gas, building another engine generator and doing the same thing with additional gas that's now available is not cost effective. We've been pushing Amoresco for a couple of years now to see if there's other projects we could use that biogas for. Because if they don't use it, at some point we send them a letter that says, sorry, but if you're not going to use the gas, you lose your rights. And right now we have, I don't have the exact number, Brian might have it, but I believe it's somewhere between 600 and 800 cubic feet a minute of landfill gas. It's about 50% methane available that's now just being flared. And that is more than enough gas to build another engine generator to at least double or more than double the existing electrical output. But again, the project, that traditional project we had before, doesn't pencil out in the current market. However, there are new opportunities to use that biogas. Things like creating renewable natural gas, where you clean that gas up, you strip the carbon dioxide out of it and make it into pipeline quality. It can either be injected or can into the PG&E pipeline, or can be used to fuel natural gas vehicles, like many of the newer trucks that we have or are in the process of buying. And so there are new opportunities, there are new incentives, new credits available specifically for that type of a project as opposed to electric generation. And with that in mind, I'm going to introduce Jim Beer with Amoresco. I'll let him give you a little of his background. He's been our primary project contact and oversight in terms of development since the original project inception. And then Sean Kilgrew with Machado and Sons, and they're proposing a supplemental or an added project with Amoresco that would provide some economies of scale and potentially a better, bigger and more valuable bioenergy project. And before we get into that presentation, one last piece, and this is really specific to the component that Mr. Kilgrew is going to talk about, which is digestion of agricultural culls. And the reason this type of project, and I'll let the two of them talk about their partnership structure, but is valuable to the authority, is that culls have never gone to the landfill. And SB 1383 requires that we divert organics that are going to the landfill, so that if we get hit with a lot of culls coming in to our compost facility, that's all good, but we don't get any credit. Oh, sorry, that was me. We don't get any credit for the diversion. And so we want to preserve our compost capacity for the actual diversion programs from the landfill. And so having a project that can actually take culls locally, because we think culls are going to start coming back into the county at a higher rate going forward because of regulatory pressures. We don't want that coming to the compost facility. So having a new project sponsored by a private entity really provides us a benefit in preserving that capacity. And at the same time, it provides economies of scale for Amoresco to be able to market the excess landfill gas. So I'll shut up with that. And I think I'll start out with Jim Beer with Amoresco. Jim?
Yeah, Patrick, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Patrick, for that introduction. I stole a little bit of my thunder, but that's okay. And I want to thank the committee for allowing us to make this presentation today. It's been a long, successful relationship between the authority and Amoresco, and I thought it might be worthwhile to take a little bit step back. And the next slide will show our the history of where we're at today and a little bit of where we're going. So, all the way back in September of 2008. The authority issued a RFP for developing the landfill gas resource at the Johnson Canyon landfill. And 2 months later, Amoresco submitted a proposal. And then it took us, I guess, what's that? That's 9 months to execute and negotiate a gas purchase agreement. And then we went off and started doing a whole bunch of due diligence, which is still needed on this new project as well. And we found not a fatal flaw, but an issue with the interconnection for PG&E for the electrical plant. And the costs were triple of what we had originally estimated. So we had to amend the gas purchase agreement to reflect that. And then I guess about 2.5 years later, we reached commercial operations, and that's what the COD is there. So for the last 7 years, we've been successfully operating that plant, paying a royalty to the authority every quarter. And I think it's been a beneficial project for everyone. And then late last year, I was approached by Machado and Sons, by Sean Kilgore, on an idea he had on utilizing some biogas that's generated from food waste and other diverted organics. And I'll let him talk about that in a little bit. But here we are, it says April on here. Here we are in May 2021, we have excess gas, like Patrick had mentioned. And what are we going to do with that gas? Patrick mentioned that the electrical market is not great right now. The median BTU wanted to replace natural gas. That would be a very poor economic decision as well. So there are some options. And then on the next slide, it talks about renewable natural gas, which Patrick alluded to. And it's a very robust market right now. You really get three sources of revenue. One is a RIN. It stands for a Renewable Identification Number, and it's a federal program under the federal government administered by the EPA. And then there's the LCFS program in California, which is the low carbon fuel standard. So both of those, to qualify for both of those attributes, the green attributes of the renewable natural gas, you have to put that in a vehicle that goes on the streets. And right now, the market for RINs is very good. It's been a volatile market since it's been instituted over a decade ago. But right now, the prices are very good. Low carbon fuel standard, the carbon credits are pretty robust. They're not at its all-time high. They've taken a dip here a little bit, but nothing too dramatic. And then you also get the third source of revenue, which is the commodity, the natural gas, and that's really pretty cheap right now, $2 to $3 an MMBTU. So the next set of bullets here is the challenges of getting this gas into the pipeline. The good part of the story is that there's a healthy market for this gas. The bad part of the story, it's hard to get into PG&E's pipeline. And on the previous slide where I talked about how long it took us to develop this project, I view these projects as marathon roller coaster rides where you have a lot of ups and downs and challenges. And then interconnection for the electrical plant was certainly challenging. And we are anticipating that there'll be some challenges as well, getting interconnecting into PG&E's natural gas pipeline. The quality standard that PG&E has is one of the toughest, well, it actually is the toughest in the nation. So there's additional capital costs that are associated with this versus doing projects other parts of the country. The distance from the landfill to their pipeline is about 3 miles, potentially 4 miles, depending on the routing. And we don't want to go through the middle of the city of Gonzales. I think we want to skirt the outskirts of that the city, so that we wouldn't be disturbing the people of Gonzales. And then the interconnection cost, PG&E also has some high interconnection costs. There's a metering station and instrumentation that's required to allow you to inject the gas into the pipeline. So those costs are high. And then on the next set of bullets, the economies of scale. This is a relatively small project. Right now, Amoresco is building 3 projects similar to this on landfills in California, 2 in the Bay Area, and 1 in LA. And they're about 3 times the size of the project that we're envisioning here at the Johnson Canyon landfill. So there are some challenges to the economies of scale. And then the last bullet on here is really a way to address that. And this is really a good segue into Sean and what Machado and Son brings to the table of combining the biogas that he is going to create from his anaerobic digesters and combining it with the landfill gas to get a larger project. So at this point, I will turn it over to Sean and let him talk to you guys about what he has in store.
Yeah. Thank you, Jim. You can go to the next slide. Little bit about the company first, and then I'll dive into the origins of this, and then on to the technology. Machado and Sons is the core business. We're a civil engineering contractor. We do a lot of site civil work. Our largest customer is PG&E. Do a lot of site civil and paving at their substations and gas conditioning, gas compression skids. We have a history in renewable energy, in solar, and we are currently developing composting sites throughout the Central Valley and other land developments. And you can see some of our customers there as well. Go ahead and go to the next slide, please. One more. So the origins of this, prior to working for Machado and Sons, I worked for a company called Black & Veatch, and we were interested in the Gonzales microgrid. And through that effort, we didn't pursue it, but I learned a lot about it. But I met Taylor Farms, and we had organic management expertise within the company, and they approached me with their, coals issue, if you will, and their other organic management problems that they deal with on a day-to-day basis. Next bullet, please. We identified a site that was in unincorporated Monterey County, just outside of Salinas, and we went through a full permitting effort there. And at the same time, we built a pilot plant. Next bullet, you can see there in the lower right. We wanted to make sure that we understood exactly how much gas this would produce, and we did. We ran that all the way up until really COVID hit and shut things down. Next bullet. And we learned a lot and dealing with the county and going through the permitting effort at that other site. And as you've already heard here, PG&E can be a challenge. We assumed incorrectly that the pipe in front of the property would work as an interconnection. And when we conducted the feasibility study, we found out a similar situation to what Jim just talked about, is the interconnection was 3 miles away. And that, for the amount of gas that we produced with these digesters, it just did not pencil. So we were in a quandary. We had to find another location. And I knew Amoresco from my dealings, really from previous efforts with Black and Veatch. You know, they're a big company, do a lot of work in this space. And so I reached out to Jim, and that's where the origins of this new location come from. Next slide, please. Go ahead and go one more. I'll talk about Biogest in a moment. So this particular location, and after Jim and I discussed the project, he introduced me to Patrick, and we had an initial site visit, and this location unfolded in front of us, and it's really an ideal location for what we're trying to do. It's, if you're not familiar with what you're looking at here, this is just north of the, I guess, north and east of the entryway into the Johnson Canyon landfill. And there's just enough room for two of the large digestion tanks, and those are each about 100 feet in diameter, 20 feet tall, and then enough room for an additional expansion. And those two that you see there would handle approximately 100,000 tons a year of coals. And that would, of course, be, you know, you'd never see that in your infrastructure. It would go straight through our system. Next bullet, please. And that's the 300 tons a day, 6 days a week. And that's just a fraction of the coals that are generated in the valley. Current estimates that I'm hearing from Taylor and some of the haulers are the valley does generate 400,000 tons of coals a year. And depending on the year, they had a slow year last year because of COVID. But you look back in the history of the hauling records, and that's about where they're at, is around 400,000 tons. And I know the issues that could potentially arise from those coals, you know, hitting your infrastructure and really slowing down your 1383 compliance. And that's one of the big advantages of this project. Next, there we go. So that, and then because of that, we knew that additional feedstock was available. We made an accommodation for that expansion you see there, which is supposed to look like a watercolor. Next bullet. The one thing that we are running into, and has been an issue ever since we started this, there is 70,000 gallons per day of digestate that is generated from this system. We think that the compost facility could take about 20,000 gallons of that, give or take. But we are working with the staff there at the landfill, and hopefully with the local branch to look at a regenerative farming and carbon sequestration effort, which would handle that digestate. Next bullet. And here's that main point again. You know, what is the advantage to you folks to agreeing to this? Is that 1383, and it's not compliance, but it's compliance in the sense that organic flow is never your infrastructure is never seeing that, so you're able to continue to process 1383 compliant organics. Next slide.
Hey, Sean, could you explain that state for the benefit of the board members?
Say that again, please, Patrick.
Can you explain what digestate is for the benefit of the board?
Yes, yeah, of course. So those digesters you see there, there's a retention time of 30 to 40 days. So if you imagine a unit of feedstock that comes into that digester, it processes it is in the resonance for 40 days, and then as it flows out, that is your digestate, and it goes in at probably 10%, 12% solids, and comes out around 2% solids, and those other solids are converted into the biogas.
Thank you.
in a more sort of broader issue here, I see this as a very unique application, an energy application that be something that would be viewed as I don't know of another situation in the country that would be able to point to a digester, solar thermal and solar power. We have to keep those digesters at a certain temperature. They have to stay within 1 degree of 100 degrees. And that's what that solar thermal band you see there is. And we have a background in that solar power, and we would want to install the solar power. I don't know if you can see it, it's in the upper right. There's perfect location, south facing slope there that would be great for about 0.5 megawatt of solar power. Next slide. And here you could see the lease area, the total feet that we would want to lease from the agency. And that's, it probably end up being one lease, not broken up like that, but that's the general area that we're looking at. And it fits well for all the needs of the system thermally and power wise. Next bullets. Yeah, the available area is there. And again, it's just ideal for what we're trying to do. You can go ahead and go through the bullets. And I guess going through that calculation, 5.5 to 6 acres. And again, the ability to expand there is important as well. Okay, next slide. Okay, here's the status of where we're at after what we've gone through. The feedstock and finance letters of intent are in place. We have a relationship, a non-exclusive relationship, but a right of first refusal with a digester company. You can't submit a permit for a CUP into the county without enough technical diligence. That you have to have a technology partner in tow here, or have a CAN design. And this is a little unique. It's coals are high water content, so to get that design done, we had to bring in Biogest, and they're an Austrian company, probably 50 to 60 projects worldwide. They're just entering the U.S. market, completing their 3rd digester in Boise, Idaho. They've been on site twice now. Seemed like a very good group, very competent, and motivated to get this done. Next slide, or next bullet point, yeah. The solar power and the solar thermal systems, we've got a concept design, and we know what the output's going to be. We have suppliers in place, so that should not be an issue. There's enough of that knowledge there to be able to size and price that system. And right now we're very confident in our numbers. We have subcontractor and equipment supply quotes on just about every aspect of the site. We have an internal team that has estimated the site civil work. So we're really confident in our number. We've been able to reduce the contingency. We've talked to CARB about our carbon intensity model as that applies to the LCFS market that Jim referred to earlier. And then, the Cal Recycle is aware of what we're doing and in favor of it. They know about the coals issue as well. So, and that relationship is good and solid. Next slide. Oh, and I've mentioned these already, the 1383 compliance and the water for the compost site. We would engage you in a long-term lease, and again, protect your infrastructure from those coals. Next slide. Now, the regional benefit here is what Taylor Farms has told me, and others. Cattle farms are decreasing. There's a general sense in Sacramento, I think, not a movement against it, but they're certainly not favorable toward cattle farms and dairies. So coals don't have a place to go, and this would be a home for them for a long-term solution to what the problem would be. And those organics, I've seen them land applied, and that's the last thing we want. We want to be able to turn these organics into a useful energy stream, and that would be facilitated through this project. Yeah, you can keep going. Yep. So that really, that puts a fine point on it, though. There was last points. And again, I'm very grateful for the opportunity, and I'm hopeful that we're able to engage and move this project forward. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Sean.
Yeah, I'll close
Do we
out.
have any
Just-
questions?
There's just one last slide. I just want to close that. Thanks, Sean, and
Okay,
thank
Jim.
you. Thank you again for the opportunity. The next steps. And I just want to point out again that this is a marathon race, not a sprint, and that we're closer to the starting line than we are the finish line. We've done a fair amount of due diligence, but there's a lot more due diligence that has to be done, and a lot of more technical analysis, financial analysis, and a lot of more agreements to put in place. But it's something that I am optimistic that we have an existing relationship with the authority that's been positive, that we can build on that, and that we have the right team members to make a project. And I think this would be a really cool project and a beneficial project to all the constituents that you guys serve.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you for that, Jim. Patrick, do you have anything to add?
No, I think, well, just to sort of sum up, staff's interest in this. Clearly, one of the goals of 1383 is to extract as much organic material as we can from the waste stream, the current waste stream going in the landfill. And while neither one of these projects do that, they preserve that capacity for us that we've already developed in our compost facility. And of course, we have been talking many, many years through the board's conversion technology committee back in the mid 2000s all the way up to current date about these other higher rate recovery systems that actually go into processing garbage. And there's potential for symbiosis here with digestion systems like the one that Sean is preparing and proposing. So we'll be more coming forward to the board as we start talking about this. You'll be hearing next month, this is sort of a segue into the next item, but about landfill development. We have great news about that. We actually have more landfill life than we'd expected. In projects like this that divert material from the landfill, and what we'll be talking about going forward, can extend that life even further, and that really is our goal. And so there is a great benefit here. Jim's business is managing our landfill gas, which will be there for decades to come, regardless of our efforts at diverting organic. And Sean's project has a benefit to the Amoresco project, and again preserves our existing 1383 infrastructure. So there's a lot of good things here, and it's just putting this together. So I think today we're just interested in sharing this with the board and getting any feedback you might have. We'd like to see this go forward a little bit further. Both Jim and Sean have some additional work to do, obviously, to provide some due diligence things to us that make us comfortable that this is something we want to bring back to the board and ask for formal approval to move forward. But so far, I think we're pleasantly surprised by this, and think it's a great opportunity for the region.
Thank you so much, Patrick. Rob, Drew, do either one of you have questions? Okay, seeing none. Does the public have any questions? I see none there either. So let's bring it back. What action do you need from us, Patrick?
Nothing at this point. We'll be bringing this same presentation forward to the full board. So really, it's just accept. You just need to. Actually, there's no action required. It's informational only at this point. We're not asking for formal direction.
So,
we're going to work with both companies to see where the project goes and if we can make it work.
Great. I remember you giving us at Chamber, giving us different presentations on different things. And, so we have been working on this for a very long time. I'm glad to
Yeah.
see something moving forward. Future agenda items.
All right, Erica, if you could pull that up. So for the month of May, we have obviously the same items you just saw today primarily. If you could scroll down a little bit. You'll be getting an update, as I said earlier, on landfill development. I think that's really important for an agency whose primary revenue source today, at least, is still landfill fees. So understanding how that's done, and actually the good news that we have more life than we expected because of the hard work that Caesar and his crew has done out there with squeezing garbage into the space we have as tightly as possible, but also some creative engineering to make full utilization of our airspace. And then Mandy will be providing an update on SB 1383, sort of where we're at, the planning work we've done so far, and just keeping the board informed on that. And you'll be seeing those presentations periodically during the next 5 years, because that is our highest priority right now, is dealing with all those rules and regulations. So you'll be hearing a lot more about that, and then hopefully we'll come to conclusion on the office lease, get that behind us also. So pretty straightforward set of items and some informational stuff for the board next month. And then hopefully, cross my fingers, we'll get something actionable on the relocation project with Public Services that will come back to the board. Based on our conversations with city staff, it sounds like, August. We're hopeful we can get something in August or September for the board to take action on. But we'll see how things progress over the next couple of months. It'll be later on.
Patrick, that is also the information that I've been given. So I think that we're very close.
Okay, good.
So is there anything else we need to go over?
No, unless the board members want to recommend anything additional you'd like to see come back either next month or in subsequent months. That's all I need for tonight. I think we have no closed session, and we'd be ready to adjourn.
Drew, do you have anything you'd like to add to future agenda items?
Not right offhand. I've been thinking about a couple things. I don't have anything finalized yet. When I do, I'll definitely let you guys know.
Thank you.
Perfect. Rob, do you have anything?
No, I'm good.
Thank you so much. With that being said, and nothing further to discuss, meeting is adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everybody.
Be safe.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have
Thank
a good
you.
evening.